In this demonstration of ParallelWorks Activate, I'm going to use two clusters. One of them is an Azure cloud cluster, and the other one is an on-premise cluster. And I'm going to demonstrate working with remote desktop sessions and Jupyter notebooks on the two clusters. This first page here is the landing page for my account on the Activate platform. This is displayed in a web browser, and this particular instance of ParallelWorks Activate is our general shared tenant platform for a commercial offering. The Albert Einstein College of Medicine's dedicated deployment is nearly identical to what you can see here, except that it's customized to the specific needs of the College of Medicine, and also has changes in branding. On my landing page, there are two clusters that are already up and running. That's in the upper left corner, the tile, my compute tile. And so the compute tile consolidates all of my resources, basically where I'm going to run jobs. Then the beautiful thing about Activate is it consolidates where you run with what you run. And so to the right of the compute clusters are the workflows that I have accessible on my account. And so some types of workflows are pure number crunching, like the benchmarks workflow. However, there are other workflows. Since a workflow is simply a series of programmed repeated steps, other workflows, for example, the desktop session or the Jupyter Lab session, they can establish a connection between, a graphical connection between one of the clusters and my workspace. And so whether it's a series of purely computational steps that are automated, or whether it's a series of steps that are necessary to establish a graphical connection, both of those are workflows. The workflows that are available here are just a small subset of total workflows that can be either shared through a marketplace on the ParallelWorks platform. And so there, users can publish workflows where they can use existing templates that we provide. Furthermore, users can also configure their own workflows using an easy-to-use YAML framework. For the clusters themselves, they are easily configurable. And so with the on-premise cluster, for example, all I need to do is specify an IP address, and a username, and a couple other parameters. On the Azure Cloud Cluster, here I have a near real-time trace of my usage on that machine, as well as a simplified graphical user interface for how to configure that cluster. Some of these parameters I can configure on the fly while the cluster is running. Other parameters are set once the cluster has been started. But the key point is that the users never go to the Azure Cloud Console directly. Here they have a user interface that has really only the options that would be necessary for a high-performance computing researcher to specify the size and shape of a compute cluster that they would need for their jobs. So, for example, things like the instance type or the region, and a lot of the other complexity associated with cloud computing is abstracted away from the user. So, with both of my clusters connected, now I'm going to move from the compute resources to the workflows, to what I actually want to do. So for example, to start a remote desktop session, all I need to do is select from a drop-down box which of my 2 active clusters I want to run the remote desktop session on, and it will auto-populate however many active clusters I have in this box. Once I've selected where I want to run and a few other parameters, I then click the execute button and the session will start. In my sessions dashboard, in the lower left portion of my screen, I can see that I have 2 running desktop sessions, one on each cluster, and 2 running Jupyter Lab sessions. Starting a Jupyter Lab instance is very similar to starting a remote desktop session, as I just demonstrated a short minute ago. However, there are a few more configuration options. For example, to access my remote desktop, I can click on the link, and here I've been working with a data set inside the ParaView 3-dimensional data visualization software, and everything that I'm doing here and the manipulations that I'm doing are running on the desktop of the head node of the Azure Cloud Cluster. So it is as if the cluster were my desktop right in front of me, except the graphics from that head node are being piped through the Activate platform to my computer, to the browser that's running on my computer. I can also take a look at the running Jupyter Lab instance. This again is the Jupyter Lab running on my Azure cluster. And so I can do all sorts of wonderful things like starting up a notebook. I can ask where I am. Maybe I can do some really important work. In this case, I'm just going to generate a unique ID so that just as a sort of placeholder for actual code and working. I'm going to save the notebook as a file. And to show that the 2 clusters are integrated together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this Jupyter notebook from where I am now, which is on the Azure cluster, and I'm going to transfer it to my on-premise cluster, the other cluster that I have connected to the platform. So I verified that I've saved it. So I'm going to go back to my home page. Again, the notebook was on the Azure cluster, and I'm going to move it to the on-premise cluster. The editor portion of the platform shows that there's 3 important things happening here. Inside this IDE, I have my own personal workspace, which is the equivalent of this personal workspace is the equivalent of the user login nodes on the Albert Einstein College of Medicine deployment. In this particular scenario, this is a containerized workspace where all of my files are available. And within this workspace, I can also mount the home directories of my 2 clusters. And so I have the Azure cluster and the on-premise cluster are mounted. And if I drop down, I can quickly see that my demonstration notebook from the Azure cluster is available. But my on-premise cluster doesn't have that notebook yet. So if I move it over, I've now copied the demonstration notebook, or I've moved the demonstration notebook over to my on-premise machine, or my on-premise connection. And if I go back to my Home tab, I can now access the Jupyter Lab instance that's running on the on-premise machine. And here's that notebook that I just copied over. And you can see that the information that I've saved in the notebook has been retained. But if I want to verify that I've actually changed computers, I'm on a different computer now. And again, I can save my work and move it back and forth as needed. The desktop and Jupyter Lab applications that I just demonstrated are only a very small subset of applications that can be run on the Activate platform. And this just goes to show the tremendous flexibility that users have when configuring their resources, but also configuring their workflows and running workflows. There's also the potential for sharing workflows within organizations. And it's that ability to share and collaborate that helps accelerate scientific workloads.